Before she passed away, she told me, you know, it smells and it feels like 1933 again. She said the messages that going across the wires, trying to demonize Israel, demonizing the Jewish people without any real base for that accusations, doesn't smell right. And it feels like 1933 in Germany, which led to the horrific end up of the Second World War and the destruction of Europe. October 7 was a warning sign to many people in Israel and across the globe. A day after the vicious attack by barbarians on the Israeli communities around the Gaza Strip, a day after these atrocities, they already blamed Israel, which means the mindset of the population across the globe was already manipulated way before this incident.
Welcome to Proclaiming Justice, a podcast from PJTN that focuses the light of truth on vital issues in today's headlines that impact every American. I'm your host, Laurie Cardoza-Moore, founder and president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, and I'm here to educate, motivate, and activate you to action. I want to arm you with the truth and the facts you'll need to fight and preserve our constitutional republic and uphold the Judeo-Christian values our nation was founded upon.
I was born after the war, but the stories that I'm hearing from my parents are amazing. They were living in a wonderful society, very peaceful society, very friendly with the neighbors. They're building relationships and building futures together. My family was involved on my mother's side with the building supply business. They were looking into providing the population at large with all the necessary items to be able to build their homes. It's wood, it's tile, it's bricks, it's everything else which needed to be done in different factories. The wood processing factory was so big that they had a railroad station on the premises to be able to move all the merchandise. As the clouds of war came closer to Europe, my grandfather was sure that Hitler, that he lost the war, will never come to Hungary. And then he had to face the challenge of rebuilding Europe and providing them the building supplies in order to put together all the destructions that Hitler caused in his move through Europe. So all his factories were working overtime. And unfortunately, over one day, the whole thing was gone because Hitler decided to go to Hungary, round up all the Jews, and try to kill as many of them as he could. And unfortunately, my family was part of those who had major losses during this period.
Hungary, looking back at history, Hungary had a large Jewish population. There were over 800,000 Jews in Hungary at that time, and some of the most beautiful synagogues in Europe or in Hungary. How could a modern society like Hungary turn on its Jewish community, who was such an integral part of life in Hungary?
This is a very important question, and it's very difficult to find a good reason to do that. But when you look at the global interest at the time, Hungary probably was very much afraid of Nazi Germany, and they were afraid to face Nazi Germany in their own country. And they thought that if they'll appease the evil operatives of the Nazi regime, they will get some benefits from that will give them some kind of advantage over everybody else. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. When Nazi Germany came into Hungary, the destruction was horrible. And the people that you thought were your friends were not your friends anymore. And the invading troops did whatever they wanted in order to advance their own agenda. They wanted the domination. They wanted to eliminate all the inferior people. For them, not only the Jews, there were many other people who were eliminated by the Nazis. There were 6 million Jews who were killed, by another 60 million who were not Jewish, who suffered from the war, in addition to all those who had just consequences, even though they did not die. But their homes were destroyed, the future was destroyed, the basic needs that they needed and to have were eliminated. And therefore it was a miscalculation, I think, by the governments of Hungary, as it was by other governments, because in many countries in Europe, this was the feeling, if we join Hitler, maybe we have a better future. The fact was that it was not. War led by evil people brings destructions to everybody, Jew, Gentile, or anybody in between. Nazi Germany by itself did not have enough power, enough manpower, and enough general power to do all the atrocities by themselves. Unfortunately, there are a lot of collaborators from the local population across the Europe. And I know, for instance, my mother was deported to Auschwitz from a different city because she got married before the war, and she was deported with my father's family. And she did not know what happened to her own family in her city where she was born at. And this was always a little window of, let's call it, connection to her past that was missing. When she was 96 years old, she took us for a family trip to show us her roots. So we went to her city where she was born in Hungary. And there we went to see the population, but there were no Jews who were left there. The only thing that was still remaining were the Jewish synagogue, the Jewish cemetery. So first we went to see her own home, the house she was born at, where she was living. Today there are 8 families living in her house. We still saw the almond trees in the backyard, which were flourishing there in the backyard. And she showed us, look at these floors. The tiles are made in our factory. From there, we went to see the local synagogue. The local synagogue had a beautiful Hebrew lettering at the gate, but nobody was using it because there were no Jews in the neighborhood. And there, an old gentleman passed by and asked our driver, what are these people looking for? And he told them they came to see their roots. He said, oh, that's interesting that you're telling so, because I'm in charge of the communal Jewish property by the Hungarian government. So maybe I can help them with something. So obviously my mother started a conversation with the gentleman. And the first thing that the guy is asking my mother, he said, what is your maiden name? She's telling him her maiden name. So the guy said, oh my goodness, my house is built from the bricks of your father's factory. So now my mother said, oh my goodness, so now I can have some kind of raw information about my past. And he said, where is the factory? I know that they redesigned the roads. How can we get and see the factory where it was? He said, no problem, don't look for the roads because after the war everything was redesigned. But if you follow this track, which I'll give you, you'll reach that location. But don't expect to see the factory. That whole area became the resettlement of the gypsies. The whole territory was taken over by the Hungarian government and was designated for the resettlement of the gypsies. So before going on our way to see what's going on in the ex-factory that we had, my mother is asking him, what happened to the Jewish people of this city when Nazi Germany took over? Because this was the gap that she had. She did not know what happened there. So, oh, interesting that you ask, because for 3 days, they collected the Jews from the entire neighborhood. They made them sleep here where you're standing now, an open field in front of the synagogue. And for 3 days and 3 nights, they were collecting the Jews. When they didn't find any more Jews in the neighborhood, they took them all and put them on a train and sent them to Auschwitz. So this was a collaboration of the local people with the Nazi Germany supervisors to reach the goal of practically genocide of the Jews. And from there we went to see the factory. And as we get closer to the place, my mother recognized the topography, the mountains and the things that were there, and nobody could move them. Said, oh, here the factories, we're getting there. In fact, when we got there, we saw a beautiful road in the middle of our property. On one side, there were nice little houses for the gypsies. On the other side, there were some communal centers, some kindergarten, some community center, and so on. So my mother turns to us and says, you know what? You can play here as much as you want on the street because it all belongs to you. And from there, we moved on to other locations and so on. So this was an interesting insight into that specific look of my mother's history in that city. My family was living there for many generations. It goes back to many, many years beforehand. And I know that my grandfather was very much instrumental in building and supporting the local community. And there were many big community events that were taking place even in his home, because they had such a big house, so they could sit down for dinner, 180 people. This is a number that I remember. And he was considered to be very generous, very philanthropic, very helpful to people who did not have the means to succeed, so he helped them in different ways. They were hoping to have a beautiful future there in Hungary. And in fact, when the war broke out, my grandfather was sure that Nazi Germany will not come to Hungary because Hitler was losing the war already. And all his factories were working overtime to try and prepare enough raw material to rebuild Europe. And it didn't help. Overnight, the whole thing was taken away and they were deported to Auschwitz, and the rest is history. There was an interesting project of one of the schools that my kids went to see, give us some kind of a family tree of your family. So I still had the fortune to speak about it with my mother, and she gave me a lot of insight. Turned out that first degree relatives that I had were eliminated by the Nazis, which we gave to the number of 29 people. It included grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins. They were all gone. 29 people. I know them individually, who they are. Never met them because they died before I even was born. But the devastation was horrible. Two brothers of my mother, sister and brothers of my father. I didn't know any of my grandparents. I didn't know many of my uncles and aunts and cousins. And we were only one example of a family who was destroyed. And my mother always believed on the fact you should be able to stand up and build up your future no matter where you are in a way that you will be successful into the future. My father was taken to the forced labor camps of the Hungarian military even before the Jews were deported to Auschwitz. He was so proud that he's going to be so wonderfully protecting and helping his own homeland. We found one picture of him as a soldier. It was so smiley and happy, and he was doing something for the country and for everybody else. Now, during his capture in these forced labor camps, his condition was horrible. They were sending them to clear up minefields. They were not feeding them. They were horrible to them. My father lost a lung to TB because of the conditions that he was there, and some other things as well. But luckily he survived. And the people who went to the forced labor camps were freed before Auschwitz was freed. So he and his friends came back to Hungary, and they said, who knows who survived? Who knows what can be done for them? Let's put together an organization, which was the Joint of Budapest, and try to put something that if somebody will come back, we'll be able to help them and direct them and give them some assistance. On the other hand, my mother, she was taken to Auschwitz and to other labor camps within the German network. And when she was freed, she managed to collect 1,000 women from all kinds of walks of lives that did not know what to do and where to go and how to move forward. She organized them, she managed to feed them, to clothe them, and to try and transport them back to Hungary. And she was successful in arranging even a train to go back to Hungary. Now, she is on the train with 1,000 women going to Hungary. She's sending a telex to Budapest, to the joint. Say, listen, guys, I'm coming with 1,000 women. Get ready because we're going to be there in a short while. The person who is getting the telex was my father. In those days, there were not too many details which were shared on the telex, only raw information, basic stuff, because every letter was very, very expensive and difficult to pass. So he looks at the letter or the telex and the details. He's telling his friends, you know what? This sounds like my wife. Because my parents got married before the war and they were separated. And then now, after the war, my mother is coming with 1,000 women, sending a telex to Budapest, and the one who is getting the telex is my father. So this is the way they met after the war. I did not have any siblings. I was an only child and was born after the war. And we lost many family members, as I mentioned before, but I did not have any siblings. And I don't know why, but probably my parents were not able to have more kids because of all the conditions that they went through during the war. Because they mentioned they tried to have kids and it didn't work. Because Mengele was trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff with the women. And my mother managed to have me, but she could not have any more kids. When my parents heard about the establishment of the Jewish state in the homeland of the Jewish people in the land of Israel, they said, we have to go there and try help the new state to establish itself and become stronger and better. And in fact, in 1949, they just picked up and got the passport from the Hungarian authorities. At the time, it was very difficult to get a passport, but my father had good friends in the government who managed to give him 3 passports for him, for his wife, and for myself. And we went to Israel, and my father became one of the founders of the Ministry of Health. My mother was very helpful in welcoming the new immigrants from a variety of states and countries that kicked the Jews out, from the Arab states, from Morocco, from Yemen, from Syria, from other places. And she was very instrumental in helping them. And she helped also many Hungarian people who came to the land of Israel from Hungary. And they needed to have some guiding hand where to go and what to do and so on. So they were trying to make sure that people who come into Israel have somewhere to be and how to get integrated into society. Before she passed away at almost 103, about 10 years ago. Before that, she told me, you know, it smells and it feels like 1933 again. She said the messages that going across the wires, across a variety of outlets, trying to demonize Israel, demonizing the Jewish people without any real base for that accusations, doesn't smell right. And it feels like 1933 in Germany, which led to the horrific end up of the Second World War and the destruction of Europe. And there was an interesting similar episode that at the time I was the president of the FIDF, and I took a whole group of people from the supporters of the FIDF and many high-ranking Israeli officers to see Auschwitz, Birkenau, to let them understand what happened in those days in order to try and prevent it from happening again. When my mother heard that I'm taking this group to Auschwitz and Birkenau, she told me, I have a very important message to all those high-ranking officers. First of all, show them the barracks I was interned in, or the remnants of the barracks, and tell them, a little old lady from that place is giving you some kind of an insight. Very simple, very focused. First, you should know that if anybody is spitting in your face, don't say it's raining. Make sure that you study your history in order to understand the trends in society. Be aware of current events to be able to navigate wisely in those times in order to be able to build a better future for yourself and for your family in the future. I delivered the message in front of this cattle cart, which was between Auschwitz and Birkenau. And after the presentation, some of these high-ranking officers came to me, if the Israeli military would have been in existence in those days, we could have slowed down the killing machine. First of all, maybe the killing machine would not have been established. But if it would have been established, we could have slowed down the killing by bombing the railroads, cutting down the flow of the refugees into these concentration camps, and the killing machine would have not been so efficient as it was. And now we know that the Allies knew about the killing machines. The US, France, Germany, England, they all knew about everything, but they did not want to interfere with that, for whatever reason it was. And the killing machine went on. And the state of Israel, by its own existence, is trying to save lives of Jewish people and of non-Jews, because if Israel is being able to stand up against evil, the beneficiaries are going to be the free world. The Israelis will benefit from that, the Jewish people will benefit from that, the Christians will benefit from that, and even those people who have no religion at all, they all will benefit from eliminating evil, who has some kind of a very bad agenda. When somebody is talking to you about world domination and to marginalize and eliminate the infidel, they're not good people. They have something bad in their blood, which they have no problem in implementing bad practices. It is very important to keep in mind that if you have evil people who wants to cause you harm, they will cause you harm. Don't try to explain it, don't try to bypass it, don't try to give it some kind of a reason. When they say that Israel is a little Satan and the US is a big Satan, they mean it, that they will eliminate the little Satan and then they'll go and eliminate the big Satan if they'll be able to do so. In their culture, the concept of deception is a virtue. They're allowed to deceive the infidel, they're allowed to deceive the people who will stand in their way because they think about the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is to reach world domination and to eliminate anybody who is not agreeing with them. We have a problem with that. They're not for a dialogue. They're all for domination. And we don't want to be dominated by bad people. We want to have good people who will work together towards a better future for everybody. And I don't care which religion you believe in or what things you want to do with your life and with your family. As long as you don't hurt others and you want to make it a better future for everybody, I'm all for it, and this is the way we should address it. But deception is very, very dangerous. If people are telling you things which they really don't mean it, because they have some ulterior motives behind it, it's a major warning sign. And unfortunately, we see today how some people are being deceived because they're oblivious to reality and did not understand history, and therefore they don't know how to build a better future for themselves and for their families. October 7 was a warning sign to many people in Israel and across the globe. If you look at the big picture first, a day after the vicious attack by barbarians on the Israeli communities around the Gaza Strip, a day after these atrocities, they already blamed Israel, which means the mindset of the population across the globe was already manipulated way before this incident. And they were building a momentum, and this was just an excuse to go and to blame the wrong people. They should have blamed Hamas, but they blamed Israel. All the problems that derived from this action were purely the responsibility of Hamas, who don't believe in freedom, who do not believe in free speech, who don't believe in respecting others. They want domination, and they don't care who you are. You can be Jewish, you can be Thailandese, you can be Christian, you can be American, because all those people were killed, maimed around Gaza Strip. They didn't ask you what are you or who you are. They were bad people with a clear directive to destroy everybody else for their domination. At the same time, in Israel at the time, many people before the event They thought that we'll be very generous towards Hamas, we'll give them everything what they want, and therefore they will never come and attack us. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Osama bin Laden was a multimillionaire. He had anything he could have had, but he was a terrorist first, with an ideology for world domination. And many Israelis at the time did not understand that. He said, but we gave the people in Gaza everything they wanted. Story. We went to visit this area immediately after the events. We spoke to a lady. She's telling us, listen, we took these people into our homes. We had meals together in my home. When they were sick, we took them to the hospital to take care of them. We built for them industrial parks to have a better future. Everything should be wonderful for them and for us to build a great future together. They came to my house and they killed my family. How can I trust them? But when we understand that people with bad intentions feel that deception is the way to reach the goals, everything becomes clear. And therefore, the only way you can understand it is to see how they educate the children in the schools first. Because if they educate the kids for peace, if they educate them for a better future for themselves and for the neighbors, you have a hope that tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday. But if they educate the kids to destroy everybody who's standing in their ways, you can listen to any stories that they tell you. They don't mean it, they never meant it, and they have a very bad agenda that we have to be very careful from it. And therefore, I hope that tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday, but the first step is going to be if they'll change the education in the schools. And if they change it, not only in the schools, but also in their media outlets, also in the governmental outlets, so that the message to the population is going to be, we want to have a better future, and marginalize the bad people. Therefore, we have to marginalize bad people, promote good people, and educate the kids for a better future. And then maybe we'll have a hope for peace. People must be aware and alert to any messages that they received in the media, in a variety of outlets, information outlets, in a variety of newspapers. Take everything with a grain of salt. They deliver messages that they are interested for you to know. They will not give you the correct answer. It was even the New York Times. You cannot rely on the New York Times. The classical example was when they show an emaciated baby in the front page, claiming that Israel caused hunger in Gaza, which was a totally bogus lie. They even corrupted out a sibling of this baby so that it shouldn't disturb the message on their front page. And this baby had some genetic issues. That's okay. You have to take care of him. But Israel did not cause it. The one who caused the hunger in Gaza were Hamas, were some UN mediators who were carrying the food supplies to the wrong places and did not take it to where they were supposed to take them. There were many people who were just stealing the food, not delivering them to the population when it was needed. So if somebody wants to put a blame on certain groups of people, find out first the real facts before you put your fingers in the face of somebody else, because you may be mistaken big time. And the importance of finding out why you should know the facts correctly is because your own future is on the line. The same people who manipulate the information about other people, they may try to control you tomorrow, may cause you harm tomorrow, because they don't have your welfare in their mind. They have a different agenda. And you better be aware of the fact that some people don't like you, even though they tell you that they do. So make sure that you find the facts correctly. Make sure that all your balls are in a straight line in order to build a better future for yourself and for your family.
Thank you again for joining me on this edition of Proclaiming Justice. Please share this podcast with your family and friends. For more information about how you can get involved, please visit our website at pjtn.org. As a PJTN Watchman, you can help us keep up the fight to preserve our freedom for our children and their children for such a time as this.